what led you to wanting to become an attorney and specifically immigration? That's a very specialized field and very difficult, I imagine.
I could connect somehow with a population who was misunderstood. The expectation was too high, the punishment too severe. Um, and I think I could just really relate with that. And so over the years, especially through law school, I really latched onto it. And immigration law is also really complex. So you
Mhm.
have the emotional complexity of keeping a family together combined with some of the most complex areas of the law possible. And you marry those things together and you have immigration law, and it's a ton of fun.
Are you or someone you know struggling with the challenges of immigration? Well, then stick around because in this episode of the Mental Health Toolbox, we're talking with leading immigration attorney Hillary Walsh, who takes the fear out of immigration so you can focus on living. So let's go. A former foster care and juvie kid turned lawyer, Hillary Walsh helps immigrants live free in the United States. Outside of her company, New Frontier, she's an adjunct law professor, mother of 4, military wife, and an avid Phoenix Suns fan. In the past 10 plus years of practicing immigration law, she's represented clients before the U.S. Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of Nevada, the Ninth, 6th, and 5th Circuit Courts of Appeals, the Board of Immigration Appeals, and immigration courts nationwide. Hillary believes that there is a solution for every problem, and she injects that relentlessness into her approach to immigration law. Hillary Walsh started her immigration law firm in 2019 and grew it to multiple million-dollar annual revenues within 2 years. She serves an undocumented Spanish-speaking client base, yet does not speak Spanish herself. This, for her, is proof that communicating the value of your service is not done through words. It is done through a feeling. When Hillary's U.S. Air Force husband's job landed their family in Phoenix in 2018, she couldn't find work as an immigration lawyer because she didn't speak Spanish. Facing hefty daycare costs for 4 young children, she knew she had to make money if she wanted to work. So, with no book of business, no contacts, and no clients, she started New Frontier Immigration Services on January 1st, 2019. Fast forward, and she broke the $1 million barrier in 2020 and the $2 million barrier in 2021. Her firm is currently on a $4.8 million run rate with over 75 employees. And while she has big goals to become one of the only female-owned businesses to earn more than $10 million in annual revenue, which only 4.2% currently do, it's not the money that really moves her. It's about setting a new standard for what people, particularly women and girls, are capable of in the U.S. if they can live free, a country that not that long ago did not allow women to take out a business loan without a male cosigner until 1988, or even have acting leadership roles. You can learn more about Hillary's work by visiting newfrontier.us. So let's dive in. Hello, Hillary, and thank you so much for making time to be on the Mental Health Toolbox video podcast today. I really, really appreciate your time and willingness to share your wisdom and services with our community.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. So much to dive into. I have never had an immigration attorney on, so this will be fun. It's near and dear to my heart as a social worker first, therapist second, is social justice and helping those who can't get the help they need straight away. So I love the work you do. I'm excited to dive in. And so I don't speak for you. Perhaps you can let our audience know what it is you do and what you'd like to share today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I help undocumented immigrants live free in the United States. So we, of course, can help people who are legally here and have work authorization or whatever it may be. A lot of Canadians come and they end up getting married and want to stay. And so they're not ever undocumented. But my real passion lies in helping people who don't have papers get papers. And then the best is when they are able to leave the country and go home for the first time in sometimes decades and see their families in their home country. And then, of course, return with ease and with papers
Mm.
and live life in a much more free way. So that's what I do.
That is fantastic. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from clients who are between a rock and a hard place when it comes to family and obligations and loyalties and providing and also making those very, very tough decisions about wanting to be with the ones they love, right? And not necessarily having the freedom to do so, or being fear of deportation and being sent away from their family. And there's so many nuances. I'm sure many of our listeners are already familiar with and perhaps living that nightmare, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is a nightmare. And I think a lot of people assume that the legal process is straightforward for being able to legalize your status. Unfortunately, our immigration laws are structured in a way that's really prejudiced against people of color, people from Mexico in particular, the Philippines, China. This is just the way our country has always been, regrettably. And I would love to see immigration reform, like massive immigration reform. I almost say within my lifetime, but I really want to see it in the next 10 years. So I really expect to outlive an immigration reform, be something that's in my rearview mirror. And I'm going to be part of that. And that's what's super
No
exciting.
doubt. No doubt. I did a little digging on your background and you've made quite the traction in very little time. So, as our audience will soon learn. So, what we know, you've been in the legal field for what, 10 years, 11 years?
Yeah, in October will be like my 10-year anniversary of getting sworn in as an
Hey,
attorney, because you take the
congratulations.
bar, and probably you're familiar with this in your field. You take the exam and you have to wait a long time. And
Mhm.
so I graduated law school 10 years ago this year, and it's hard to believe how fast 10 years goes.
No kidding. No kidding. I'm in the same boat going on 11 years. Yeah, post grad. So,
I
time
don't know when,
flies. Yeah.
we regard ourselves as air quote baby lawyers, and you're like, oh, I'm a baby lawyer. And then one day you are fully
Right?
loaded, and
Yeah.
you're respected, and you have street cred. And I don't know when that
Mm.
transition
Yeah.
happens, but
No idea. I'm with you. I'm like, I don't know, but it happened somewhere along the line, right?
somewhere along the
Remember.
line. And maybe it's belief. Maybe all of a sudden then you're
Mhm.
just like, no, I just believe it about myself now. And maybe it's not a certain number of
Mm.
years, but
We own it, right? Yeah.
yes.
Excellent. So you've been in the legal field for going on a decade now. But what about before that? What led you to wanting to become an attorney and specifically immigration? That's a very specialized field and very difficult, I imagine, to swallow.
Well, I was in foster care for a really short time when I was a teenager. And my family didn't have any run in with the law or anything like that. It wasn't, I think, we think of kids in foster care and we have a stereotype in mind, maybe from like watching Annie as a kid.
Hmm.
But I was not that stereotype. From the outside, we had a perfect family. And inside, we had dysfunction and alcohol abuse and domestic violence. But we knew how to show up when we were on the outside. So almost like built performers. We were trained performers, all of us. Isn't that funny about life? Because I'm sure in your role as a social worker and therapist, you see people who they know how to perform on the outside, but on the inside, they have so much that they're wrestling with. And
Oh,
that
absolutely.
is for sure my background. Probably even to some extent, we do it, even you and I are doing it even today. I think like we're
Hmm.
all just trying to show up and put our best face forward on
Hmm.
some level.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I got put in foster care just for about a 9-week period. And it was during that time that I had my first real interaction with the legal process. And I think that laid the foundation. I was 15 then, but I think that laid the foundation for you're going to do something. And this isn't going to be the last time you're in this courtroom. And I don't remember ever thinking those thoughts. But when it was time for me to go to a courtroom again, after I was already in law school, you're just not as scared. Like there's a whole other feeling when you go in as a legal representative versus as a defendant or a plaintiff or victim. It's your case on the line.
Hmm.
But I went into immigration, I think because I could connect somehow with a population who was
Mhm.
misunderstood. The expectation was too high, the punishment too severe. Um, and I think I could just really relate with that. And so over the years, especially through law school, I really latched onto it. And immigration law is also really complex. So you
Mhm.
have the emotional complexity of keeping a family together combined with some of the most complex areas of the law possible. And you marry those things together and you have immigration law, and it's a ton of fun.
Wow, sounds like it. Also sounds like a lot to take on.
It
Yeah.
is. Every day you hope that
Mhm.
you are doing this the correct way. When President Trump was the president, we almost daily had a new guideline issued or a new executive order. And so sometimes you would go to court and you would hope that one of the other attorneys would go first because you didn't know what the new change of the day was going to be, but you were probably going to find out about it in real time because the immigration judges were briefed every morning on the new changes, which we, of course, didn't have that opportunity. So
Mhm.
you're playing with real lives and hoping that you don't mess anything up every single day.
And that I always imagine, when you're an attorney, especially when you're doing like a public defender, criminal attorney, family law, immigration, the stress, the amount of responsibility on your shoulders. How do you manage that kind of a side note? Just wondering about self care. Maybe it's a therapist in me, but I'm wondering like how do you manage that stress? I'm sure by now you probably have some pretty good understanding of what your coping mechanisms are, right? What is
Well,
that like?
I sometimes it's trial and error. I can tell you after years of diligent research, it's not at the bottom of a wine bottle.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, which is easy.
So, which is
Yeah.
now I can, if anyone's wondering, I can save you the trouble and thousands of dollars to let you know that alcohol is not going to make any of your problems go away.
Mhm.
And they're just going to be there waiting for you on the other side of it. I quit drinking about a year and some months ago. My husband and I both decided that alcohol, we wanted to take a 90-day break, and then we've just never
Mhm.
gone back.
Okay.
And that was an area where I was really hiding out and trying to numb out because it was there's a joke in the legal field that people are renting space in your mind. And that's what they're actually paying you for your legal services is to have that
Mhm.
space. And sometimes the crowd is quite large and you learn to love these clients. And for me, I really fall in love with their children. They bring their kids
Mm.
in and they're my kids' ages, and you just connect with them on this whole other level than just a mom to a mom. It's like mom, and now I also see your kid, and you are like, I am fighting for you. I'm not fighting for thousands of immigrants. The focus shifts to just this one person. And I think that I read the Four Agreements really early on.
Mhm.
Don,
Classic. Yeah.
yeah, it is a classic. Don San Miguel, I think is his name. And really evaluating whether I had done my best was a lot of freedom from guilt because we lose in immigration law a lot. I think that, and it's not because our clients don't have great cases. It's because the deck is stacked against them. So it's really hard to overcome that sometimes. And so we lose a lot. Criminal defense attorneys do as well. It's just part of the process. That doesn't mean you don't walk around with a lot of guilt that what if I didn't do enough? So it is really a constant evaluation of did I really do my best? And if you didn't, it's time to get right with the Lord and and figure it out,
Right.
you know?
Not gonna sleep at night, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to sleep at night.
Mhm.
So that has been the greatest freedom for me is to truly evaluate whether I've done my best. And now, um, my business advisor was saying, I think that your standard of excellence, it's fine until it starts limiting you because no one's ever going to meet that standard of excellence. And it is a constant inquiry. Am I doing my best? Is my
Mhm.
standard of excellence too high? And that's a good self-care tool.
Very well said. Thank you so much for sharing that aspect of it. And I know sometimes it's not something like you said we lead with our struggles, right? But the human aspect of being in a high demand position, right? I recently had somebody on who was an expert in executive burnout, and it's serious stuff. And he talked about his battle with addiction and alcohol and depression, and as a result of trying to hold all the things, right?
Mhm.
And then live, manage your self-care too. And something usually gives, right? If we keep pushing. So
Yeah, I
thank
had
you for
health
sharing.
issues
Yeah.
and all sorts of things crop up. And, it was when you're running a business trying to, especially in the early stages of the pandemic, it was very stressful because all of us didn't know how we were going to function. And all of us were watching Tiger King and getting drunk at night. I think that was like
Hmm.
a huge part of the American fabric during that time.
Right.
And then you have to show up to work the next day and try to be your best version of you. And
Hmm.
although Tiger King was a time, I don't think it brought out the best in anybody.
Hmm.
So it is a season of my life that I'm really happy that I experienced because I can see other people going through it. And I remember being in that position. And it's just sometimes you have to set down things that don't serve you anymore. And for me, that was alcohol.
Wow. A lot of self exploration, right? To figure out what those things are, the levers you can pull, even the seemingly small ones that really free up room for personal development and stability, right?
For sure. And breaking the barrier of what you believe about yourself.
Hmm.
When you have an alcoholic parent and you see that behavior, it's easy to also replicate it. But I really want to live a life of greatness. And not that my parents didn't, but they're not the ceiling of what I can achieve and be. So I get to see them as a wonderful model. And now I'm going to improve on that. I'm going to get to be the 2.0 version of that.
That's a beautiful vision. I love that. Respecting where we come from, but understanding that we don't necessarily have to just do what we know or what was modeled for us, that you can create your own journey, your own path, your own why, right?
Yeah. And my mom and dad have always believed that about
Hmm.
us as kids and spoke that into us. And I'm very grateful for that, I didn't have this as a kid, but we're going to make sure that you get it. And I didn't
Hmm.
have this, but you're going to have it. I think generationally, we all want to give the next generation
Hmm.
that gift, but
Absolutely.
without a view of competition. My parents are very successful. Our success and our aspirations are just different.
Hmm. Hmm. And to have the freedom to know that you have their support,
Yeah.
to not necessarily just follow the same mold, but do your own thing. And I think there's
Yeah.
a lot to be said for that, that
It's
encouraged
been
autonomy, right?
Yeah, it's been fun because my parents are both, I don't know to the extent I could say fans of President Trump, but they're both very vocal supporters and voters for President Trump. And I am not. I would probably be on the opposite end of that spectrum. And not to make this political, but just simply to illustrate that even with that in mind, that we can still be so supportive of each other. And my dad is my biggest fan. I was on LA Spectrum a few weeks ago, and they gave me the questions they were going to ask in advance, and there was a hard question in there, and I'm always mindful that I'm not speaking. I can speak to a person who's already an immigrant advocate, and we're going to be preaching to the choir. They're not the person I need to just do essentially a drip campaign of these
Hmm.
are human beings. These are not the masses. This is one life, one person. And
Hmm.
that kid impacts my kid, impacts your kids, impacts my country. Like we are all related. So I reached out to my dad. I said, Dad, they're going to ask me this question. What do I say? And his response was so full of empathy and love. And and I think that being able to have that open dialogue across party lines, I can get to do that in my family. I know we can do that as a country. So there is a lot of freedom in that. It is the perfect word for it.
Well, I love the message of hope and inclusiveness, right? And to remember that, yes, these causes are not just causes. They're not just a model, a philosophy, right? Or politics. These are people, right?
Mhm.
And you're in the trenches with them, and you see, how decisions made at the top affect the individual. right? And I'm glad that you're reminding us all of that. That's very important, right?
Yeah,
And
we
it's
have so
at the
much
core
in
of your work,
common.
right? Yeah.
We have so much in common. It's it's sad to me that we live in a time where the differences are disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
I have four little kids, and there's an Amy Poehler movie that's a cartoon, Inside Out. I don't know if you've seen
Mm-hmm.
it, but
I don't
you
think
should.
so.
Oh, you will love it. You will love it.
Taking
In
notes
your
now.
field, yes, you have to see it, and it's precious. But it is, of course, for kids. But it's a way for us to understand
Mm-hmm.
the different ways that we think about things. And of course, Amy Poehler is very clever, and I just love her. But the emotions that we have and the way that we view things, we get to choose how we see things, and we can see them with joy, and we can see them with, and these are the different people who are in this
Emotions.
little
Yeah.
girl's
Mm-hmm.
mind, helping control.
I've seen snatches and grabs of it. It's like the core
Yes.
emotions, the core memories, the
Yeah,
feelings,
the
and how
core
everything serves a
memories.
purpose,
Yes.
right?
My favorite is when there's the
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought, and a train goes through, and like it just goes off into nowhere. And it's like, I
Right.
can completely relate. And I don't know
Can't
if
we
it's
all?
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the train comes back on the tracks, and it is a really cute way to illustrate what goes on in our mind and how that manifests in our body. But I wish that we could get to a place where differences actually, because I believe this is what makes us as a country so great, is that I've lived in very homogenous countries and seen what it's like just to be sort of different. I remember going for a jog when we were stationed in Korea. My husband's in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a white lady with dark, at the time I had very dark, long brown hair, and I had on a cap and sunglasses. So in my mind, I look Korean. Apparently I turn really pink when I jog. And so I give myself away as not being beautiful olive tone skin, and people stare. And I remember being stared at as I'm on this jog thinking, why are people staring at me? And it's because I realized there's no amount of blending in you can do in a country that is very, very homogenous, like Korea, or when we visited India, it was the same thing. And you're in the United States, you can open your mouth and talk and have an accent, or maybe not even speak English, and you don't know if you were born and raised here. And those are the things that inject innovation into our country. And I love that different ideas are what makes us great. Why are we so disgusted by them as a society right now?
Always has been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
I've gotten off into a soapbox.
No, I love it though. I love it because that speaks to your why, right? And what inspires you and the amazing work that you do, right? And I'm wondering what turning point occurred, because you've been an immigration attorney now for 10 years, but you've been a CEO, founder of your own firm, if you were, right?
Mm-hmm.
New Frontier
Immigration Law. That's
immigration law. And that's new-ish, right? 2019. So what transpired that made you leave maybe the standard lifestyle of being an immigration attorney and starting your own firm? What happened there?
Well, I have like a couple snapshots of memories to share with you that immediately like flood my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The first is when I was in law school, I represented a young woman. I went to law school in Las Vegas, and I was working in the immigration clinic as a student attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And my very first case that I worked on was a 14-year-old German girl who'd been kidnapped and prostituted on the strip. And so we were able to get a T visa, which is for trafficking victims, for her, her mom, and her brother, who were all undocumented in the US. That was a huge experience for me because I was working with a young girl who was my age when I went through my big traumatic experience. Different experiences, of course, but to get to love and heal this other young person was very cathartic for me as well. But I graduated in 2012, which was a very difficult time for lawyers to get jobs because the economy was terrible. Too many lawyers, not enough jobs. I was so fortunate to get a job at a commercial litigation boutique firm in Las Vegas. I still think that they didn't quite realize what my resume was, because I don't know how I got that job, but I did. And I did that job for about 14 months, and I learned to be a very good writer while I was at that job, because that was my primary role, was just to kind of grind out legal writing. But while I was on maternity leave, I read Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, and a voice within me, like that guiding light, was reminding me that I was supposed to be an immigration attorney. I had made this commitment to myself, and I had gotten off track because I had really wanted a job right out of law school. So I committed to do a couple of asylum cases pro bono in the next 6 months. My husband called within the next 4 weeks and let me know, hey, babe, I'm in Afghanistan. You're home with twins who you're nursing and taking care of, and you're working however many hours a week. I just got orders. We're moving to Korea. Isn't that so exciting? Wow. But it really was, because I couldn't find a job in Korea. I could not find a job. And this was in 2014. So it was before telework was really common, like it is today, where it's absolutely very common for people to work from around the world. I couldn't get a job in Korea and couldn't find anyone who would let me do even free work for them in the United States, because they only wanted ghostwriters. And I'm a person of a little bit of ego, and I wanted my name on the brief. I had written all these briefs when I was a grunt attorney, and my name was never on the brief. I wanted, if I'm going to do this work for free, I want to have my name and sign my name to this paper. Yeah. And one organization out of all the nonprofits that I reached out to here in Arizona, the Florence Project, said, all right, you don't have any experience, but we have more work than we can handle. We will mentor you on doing some appeals work. And so I began doing immigration appeals from Korea for people detained here in Arizona. I moved back 5 years later after having this long-term relationship with this nonprofit. And I couldn't get a job here in Arizona because I don't speak Spanish. Oh, wow. No one wanted to hire an experienced immigration lawyer, because...
So certainly you thought by that point, after going to Korea for 5 years, getting the experience and coming back, you wouldn't have the same problem with employment, right?
One would think, but it was, again, the greatest gift, because I decided, hey, I don't want to go work at another civil litigation firm. I mean, the things that I'm qualified to do in an English speaking capacity, I'm not interested in. And I had thought for a while I wanted to do criminal defense. But it just wasn't, you see what you're supposed to see when you're supposed to see it. And I was connected with a woman who owned her own immigration firm, and I needed her help on a case to, she was licensed in a state that I needed an attorney to help me in for a pro bono client. And she said, you should consider opening your own firm. If you can't get a job where someone's going to pay you to do this, maybe you should just open your own firm. And here we are all these years later. And that's a core memory. Yes. And it really changed my life. And she actually lives here in Phoenix now, and it's wonderful to connect with her. And the universe is so creative.
It's easy to get stuck in our own box, right? Mental box, as far as the options that we see. But it just took a friend to give you permission to think outside the box.
Think outside the box. And
bet on yourself, right?
Asked other immigration lawyers who had successful firms and said, I'm thinking about opening a firm here in Phoenix. I don't know anyone here at all. We just got stationed here. I don't have a single client here. And I also don't speak Spanish. Do you think this is a good idea? And a lot of voices said, this is a bad idea. I just don't think it's going to work. It's great that my parents raised me to be competitive, because I thought I'm just going to do it anyway, and we'll find a way.
Now, you say that very kind of flippantly. Oh, I just started a business. But for anybody who's ever dipped their toe in starting a business knows it's not as simple as that. And competitive, yes, you are, because I also know by reading your bio that you have doubled your business every year since you started. And no small feat. I mean, we're talking a business that's in the millions, right?
Yeah.
10 million? Yeah.
We'll do probably
So,
10 million next year. We're
yeah.
aiming to hit 6 this year.
So you're very humble.
Oh, well, I mean,
You're
I
not,
think that if I can
yeah.
do it, I truly believe that if we give value, and I believe that if our goal is to add more life and more good to the universe, and I think that, I mean, I hope that I live to be an old lady, but I'm not going to count on that. So I might as well just do it right now while I've got the energy for it. I think that the universe will reward the desire to give and give and give. And that's what I
Yes.
believe is I have been blessed with.
My favorite coping skill, if you were, is to study successful people, deconstructions of them. And something I hear over and over again as a root of success from what I've seen is to serve first. And that certainly seems to be your mindset. Is that right?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. I think that's just a law of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime, anytime you see anyone acting selfishly, that success can only live for so long without some type of huge disruption. And of course, success or whatever I think is, it depends on who you talk to, what success is. But I think that if we serve and we give without fear that if we give too much, no one will come by,
Mm.
BUI,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then that is the absolute ultimate trust giver. And that's how we run our company.
Wow. Well, certainly seems to be making quite the impact.
We have
Absolutely.
an amazing, we have an amazing population here in Arizona. We're helping people in lots of states, but of course, our main focus is here in Arizona right now. And it never gets old watching someone who is probably my dad's age. I'll get emotional just mentioning it. And they open their envelope from the U.S. Postal Service. It's this little envelope with the window, and they've seen the picture of this online where other people are holding it up and they know inside is their work permit. And they
Mm.
open it and they look at it and just disbelief washes over them. And they're holding this thing that I have taken for granted every day of my
Mm.
life. And you get
Mm.
to watch them truly unwrap their future. Their life will never be the same now in the best of ways. And I got to be one tiny part of that. I'll live forever now. Like my life will never end because I was like a fragment in their journey, and now their kids' lives will be different and so on. It's pretty amazing.
Wow. The reward, right, of seeing the wins, the small wins, the big wins, right?
Yeah,
Making a
the
difference. I think that's what everyone really wants at their core is to know that their life means and makes a difference, right? For
yeah,
the better, to leave
we
this world
all
better
have
than
this
we found it.
search for significance. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't, if you had settled for the status quo, right? And if you hadn't challenged yourself to follow your passions, that inner voice, right? To
Well,
to
even last
follow your
week, I
dream.
mean, I wanted to pack it up and let's just be a small shop. Um, what have I gotten myself into? I feel like I'm not the right leader for this. We've made a mess. We're scaling too fast. We're helping too many people. And maybe we're not doing it to the level of service that we had intended. And you have this conversation. And later that night, one of my associates quit because she said,
Hmm.
I'm never going to be enough. Like I'm watching you get Hillary in a Zoom, get emotional, saying these things like what I literally just said to you, processing it outwardly. And I'm like, I do not know if I can do this. And I
Hmm.
don't know if I'm the right person to do this. What if I'm making a mistake? And kind of outwardly processing that and then calling other people. I can't do this alone. We have to have I often talk about how we're like an NBA team. And I don't want to not get injured. I don't want to collect a big paycheck and not get injured. I want
Hmm.
to win the finals. And that means we have to be ruthless in
Hmm.
in staying aligned with our vision. And that person quit that night. She said, I am not going to be what you need me to be. And that hurts because I love that person.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, one knows themselves the best. And if
Right.
they can't see themselves going to the finals, we have to vacate that seat and fill it with someone who will.
And that's an
But
act of
it is,
respect and love too, is
yeah,
knowing
it
like
is.
if you can meet the demands of the mission or not.
Yeah,
Right.
it is. It really is. But it is not always fun.
Mm-hmm.
This is not always fun. So
No, no,
when you
I
get to
appreciate
see
you
the
saying
people
that
open
because
their green card,
yes,
that's your
yes,
moment.
right. But everything that leads up to that point, all of the tough decisions, and I'm sure I was going to ask you how you overcame. I'm sure some of the numerous challenges you've come across. Like I imagine one is staffing when you're starting a firm like this. How did you go about that?
Well, at first I pretended to be a receptionist on the phone. I had an iPhone.
Mhm. Mhm. Scrappy.
I
I like it.
Yeah, you do what you got to do. Hi, this is, at the time it was the law office of Hillary Gaston Walsh. Sounds fancy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not practical at all. And yes, no problem. Yes, it's $50 to talk to the lawyer. You want to pay by cash or card, and you sell your consultation. And then after
Mm-hmm.
they book it, then you meet with them, and you would get you sound so
Mm-hmm.
similar to your
Familiar.
receptionist. I hear that all the time. I hear that all the time. I had one of my kids' godmother do an interview for my very first employee because I had
Mm-hmm.
never interviewed anyone before, and I see the good in everybody. So everyone has potential to be amazing. So I needed an objective person. She interviewed
Mm-hmm.
her, and she's still with me. She's in law school now and working part time at the firm almost 4 years later. And now I've got the godmother working for me for the firm as well. So
A family
it's
affair.
been
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it really has been amazing to grow a team of people who are aligned with what we're doing, but the people component of it is complicated because we have our own I have my own issues with relationships that I bring
Mm-hmm.
to a feedback session, and and then I have hormones that I'm also dealing
Mm-hmm.
with because
Mm-hmm.
while men also have hormones, they go through that cycle in 24 hours, and I get to drag that out over the course of 4 weeks.
Yes.
Different
Yes.
situation, and
Very
trying to
different.
be
Yes.
very introspective and mindful that the set of hormones I have right now may not be the best thing for the leader to be in a feedback session right now.
Mm.
So I need a buffer, or I need to table this and have the self control
Mm-hmm.
to table this until I'm in a better mental state. And all of that takes a lot of introspection.
A lot of honesty with yourself, a lot of
Yeah.
communication, transparency with your team.
Hoping you're not screwing it up. It's like
Right.
parenting.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just thinking about all the imposter syndrome that would come up, and as you're venturing out and doing creating this business for yourself, this firm, just all the challenges, right, and how you're addressing that imposter syndrome. But that sounds like the crux of it right there is the introspection, the self honesty, and creating systems to buffer that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
feedback sessions, making sure that that line of communication is open, that you're approachable, right?
Yeah. And that for me, it's so rarely about what I say, but the intention. I go into a meeting with how I want them to feel afterward. And I can lead with love and say exactly what I need to say. And they know because of months or weeks or even hours of experience with me that I'm not saying this to cut you down. I'm saying this because I truly want you to rise. And if someone can feel that, you can get a lot of work done real fast.
Right. I mean, that's great. Yeah. Just making sure that everybody feels appreciated, respected, encouraged because you have a mission. The mission is to help these people, right? This population, these people who are struggling. Um, and from your whole history and experience, you must have a wealth of information about what the particular challenges are. You mentioned asylum cases, work visas, citizenship status. What have you found to be some of the most common challenges when people in immigration law, for example?
I think the belief that I am worthy of this benefit. People will come in and have a consultation with us. We let them know, congratulations. We see a path for you to either get your work permit, your social security number, your driver's license, your green card, and then maybe someday your citizenship. This will get you an opportunity to leave the country and come back with permission. It's safe for you to go see mom in Mexico and come
Mm.
back to your family here in the US. And I think there is a belief system of, I don't know if it's too good to be true, or I don't trust you. This seems too easy. But for me, I believe at the core of it is, once someone decides that they are worthy of it, that they deserve this, and it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to actually do it, actually
Hmm.
take the steps forward and say, I'm claiming this. This is mine. This is the life I'm going to have. Once that happens, everything aligns and we make it happen. But if someone is stuck and they just can't see themselves having the green card or stepping into this new life, and they're so afraid, I think that is the hardest. That's the hardest one to overcome, because that's an inside job.
Hmm.
And we can love people through that, but it really is an inside job.
Yeah, I bet. Well, sounds like fantastic work you're doing. I'm wondering if you have any words of wisdom for anyone who might be listening, if they have a loved one or a family member who might be struggling with immigration and barriers to citizenship or anything in that realm. What are some words of wisdom that you would encourage people to kind of grab hold of? Any actionable tips or tools, resources?
I think it's important for us to hearken back to what our vision was for our life before we were told no.
Hmm.
A few weeks ago, I was in LA for an interview, and I was visiting with the woman who coordinated everything. She's like the backstage coordinator, really the master behind the scenes. And she shared that her parents are undocumented Mexicans living in LA, and they've been in LA for 30 or 40 years. Neither of them have status, and she's the oldest, and she was born here, so she's a citizen.
Hmm.
And I said, we help people in your parents' exact situation all the time. And I would be honored just to, whatever value I can give you to kind of help, because I could see that there was this disbelief, because they've talked to other people and they've heard from friends, and the community is very tight knit in terms of sharing, this is the way that we've done X, Y, or Z to get our papers. I could not pierce her. And this is an educated, highly effective, very confident woman. Could not convince her. And I didn't spend, I'm not sitting there trying to convince her that, no, you don't
Right, right.
understand. But there was just this hardened bubble around her of disbelief that anything could be done. It's like, well,
Mm.
we're working with a nonprofit to do whatever it is that we're trying to do. And I think if we get really clear on what our vision was for our life, so this has to be, each of us has a different vision for our life. And I see
Mhm,
in pictures, I think we all
mhm.
do. You would know better
Yes,
than me. We all see in
indeed.
pictures, right?
Yes.
But the movie I play in my mind, when I get really discouraged or I start to believe that this is just the way that it is, I have to go back to the movie in my mind. And it's it's not that. There has to be another way. And so for this young woman, I mean, she's young compared to me. I think, probably 28 years old. She she needs to go back in her mind to the vision of what she has for her parents. And if she can see her parents with her, maybe they're driving across the border into Tijuana, going on a road trip, to eat some really good food, maybe to go
Mm,
see family. If that's been the vision for her life, then when opportunity knocks at your door, you'll listen a little closer. But the more we start to believe the lie that this is not going to happen for me or my family,
mm,
the harder opportunity has to knock, because we've lost sight of our vision. I think that's true whether it's for your papers or for me a long time. It took 8 years to get pregnant. And you just start to believe that this isn't going to happen for me. Um, but I don't believe that. I really believe that the opportunity is still there if you want it to be there. So that's what I would share with people, is to keep that vision in your mind. The universe will answer if you just hold
And
tight to it.
you speak from lived experience, right? Mother
Yes.
of four now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I joke that we
And
overprayed. I had 4 kids in 4
yeah,
years.
twins,
So
right? Yeah.
yeah, I started with
Careful what you ask for.
twins. Yeah. 4 kids in 4 years is a wild ride.
That's fantastic. But yes, I think I mean, like those cliches we hear, if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
You can see it, you can do it, right? But I think there is a lot to be said as a therapist. There's so much truth to, what we call limiting beliefs and
Mm-hmm.
assuming that the narrative we've created in our head is the only narrative that's possible,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It keeps us safe. That
Ex-
narrative for me is almost the same as
mhm,
alcohol, where it keeps you safe from something for some amount of time until you decide this is no longer serving me. I actually need to disrupt what I thought was keeping me safe, did at some point, but now I get to disrupt that by stopping drinking or taking on this new healthier lifestyle or surrounding myself with people who are not negative or stopping looking at the news. The news is making me
mhm,
scared, and it's re-traumatizing me, and
mhm.
um all of those things have kept us safe, but maybe they don't serve us anymore.
Yeah. So the stimuli that we choose to ingest, right, continues to feed whatever train of thought or narrative that we're holding on to. And that
Mm-hmm.
theme I keep hearing you bring up in your personal development, your journey, is that you're doing an audit. Sounds like you do an audit on yourself, and you're finding out whether it's the alcohol or the news or the negative stimuli, whatever it is, you're paying attention to what is contributing to your thought process. And if it's not helping you move toward your goals, then maybe that's not necessary, right?
Yeah, it's you have to put
Yeah.
yeah, you really have to put certain things down. Quitting is a word I hate.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes it's just surrender.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that. Thank you for that. So much we could continue to unpack. I know you're a
I
busy,
hope that
busy
I'm not.
lady.
I wonder if in your in your actual licensed mind, you're because you start living life, and then you know that there's clinical work and there's data, and you hope that what your life experience is and what you've chosen, what I've chosen to believe
Hmm.
about my life, I hope that it aligns with science. I think that it does.
Oh,
But there's only
absolutely.
one way to find out, I guess. It's with life.
Exactly. Yes, yes. I try not to think rigid in terms of how, we're just people. We're just people, and problems are not new in the way that we encounter life and social problems and our emotions. And it's the same as it's always been. Nothing new under the sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
You read any book, you know, and from whatever time period around wisdom and practical knowledge, and you'll see that it's all pretty much the same. Technology changes a bit, but problems are still the same. And it's really all about mindset and
Mm-hmm.
giving ourselves permission to find a way and to make
Yeah.
things work, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes no is no, and sometimes no is not right now. And sometimes there are, if you can't get in through the front door or something, you can find a window,
Mm-hmm.
to a problem.
For sure.
And I know that's your area of expertise, is helping people find, and other ways to accomplish their
Creative
goals,
solutions.
creative
Absolutely.
solutions,
Creative
right?
solutions. We have to be innovative. We have a limited number of tools on our immigration lawyer toolbox, but
Hmm.
a screwdriver, you turn it around and it can also be a hammer.
That's
So
right.
let's
Love
find a way.
it. Well, I'm so glad that you're doing the work that you are, and the people, are who need you, hopefully will find you, and you're doing great work. And I know you're scrappy, and I know that you have, clawed tooth and nail to build this meaningful, business that serves great needs, in our society. And I really appreciate what you're doing. Would it be okay if I had you back on down the road and
I
kind of
would
see how
love
things are
that.
going?
I would love that.
Yeah,
Please
I
check
would
in.
too.
We'll see if I'm like aged 3,000 years and look like the Titanic lady in, a year from now.
Self care. Now,
Like my self-care treatment. I need a facelift now.
there you go. You deserve it. Tough work. Um, so you have a website, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Newfrontier.us.
Excellent. There we go. This is your website, right?
There we go. Back when I had
There
brown
we
hair.
go. Excellent. I love how you have it set up with lots of good resources here. A little bit about you, right? Life story for those who want to dig a little more. You've got some info on your team, right?
Yes.
I think I saw a form at the top there for anyone who is interested in a consultation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Their case. I believe that was right up here, right? Fill out a little free case evaluation form. You've got a blog. I thought I saw a blog here.
Yes.
Right? Different articles on use case and needs.
It's funny. We have more recent ones, and I don't know why they don't load on the English side, but on the Spanish side, they load, but we need to fix that. We just launched a podcast as well called Immigration Law Made Easy.
Oh,
and
excellent.
This is our way of helping people, whether you are near or far, get access to complex answers without having to pay for it. Because if the only way you can get some of these answers is by paying hundreds or thousands of dollars, sometimes that's a huge roadblock for people, and they simply can't do it. But we all have phones these days, and hopefully people can tune in. And on Fridays we do a podcast episode that's all about good news in immigration. We always hear about the border wall and a lot of really negative vibration things that come into our mind and when we start thinking about immigration. But what are all the great things that are happening in the immigration space? So we do that on Fridays.
Excellent. And what's the name of that podcast again?
Immigration Law Made Easy.
Oh, I love that. What a great name for a podcast. Immigration Law Made Easy. Is there a link to that on your site here?
I don't know, because I should say no. We don't have one on there, but we need one. But we just launched it last week, so we did all the recording stuff and dropped our first private. Yeah, so it was very fresh. I'm really excited about it. I showed it to my husband this morning over coffee, and he's like, "Wow, you're like so official."
Right, I love it. Immigration Law Made Easy. You have a website.
Yeah, we got blog, a great YouTube channel, lots of content on there. We talk about trafficking every single Tuesday with one of our other attorneys, who she is an expert on T visas, and trafficking is so common in the immigration community, labor trafficking in particular. And it's not a Liam Neeson movie; it's real life.
Okay, so you're holding out on me because there's so much
important on our Facebook page.
Here.
I really our website is kind of like our main client base is not going to go hang out on our website. They're going to find us probably on Facebook and probably on YouTube, trying to Google and answer questions. But that doesn't mean that our main client base may find us there, but other people may find us here. And so we're trying to give value anywhere you might turn.
I see. What is your YouTube channel?
It should just be New Frontier Immigration Law.
Oh,
yeah, we got lots of stuff.
I'm going to link up to everything in the show notes for everyone. Because
yes, thank you so much. Hopefully there's an answer in there that gifts someone, even if it's just, this seems so complicated, and yet I understand a little bit more. I get a little bit more agency in my life. If I can gift that to somebody, that's going to help them have more agency in their life and so many other places too.
Well, it's really the theme here is you're making yourself accessible, right? I think that's the biggest barrier is people think, legal help is, not for, the non-wealthy people who can't afford, who aren't fortunate enough or privileged enough to have it. But you're making the information accessible between having an English and Spanish version of your website, a podcast, a YouTube channel. You're advocating for special needs and the victims within those populations and trafficking, and just so much there, the work you're doing. And you're very, very humble, and you don't toot your own horn, evidently. But
Well, I mean, I can't do it. We have almost 100 people on staff. So like people will ask, especially in mom related podcasts, like how do you do everything? And the real honest answer is you don't. You just
Mhm.
find the favorite things that you're good at and that make you feel good and make you feel like, I'm on the right track, and you do those as much as you can. And there are crappy things you have to do too, but you don't do everything or you burn out and drink a lot of wine, apparently.
Funny. Yes, indeed. Well, you've certainly put together, as you said, like an A-list team, and great company. And I'm excited to see where it goes next. And I'll definitely be checking out that podcast and referring people to it. It's great
Thank
work you're
you.
doing.
Yeah, I super appreciate it.
Wonderful. All right. Well, you feel free to jump back on anytime you like. And
I so appreciate it.
all
I
right.
would love to have you on. We have a podcast called The Grateful Leader, and it's really just a passion project where we get to talk about I want to deconstruct this illusion that air quotes successful or the people who have it together
Mm-hmm.
um, have it together. We really, really don't. And that we have these
Mm-hmm.
defining moments in our lives. We can look back on those and see that at the time they were happening, it was our rock bottom moment. But because of this, not in spite of it, but because of this event, we have this other superpower or skill or other little nugget of empathy that we wouldn't have had without it. And I'm sure in your field you have that too. They say that therapists, you don't become a social worker or a therapist if you too are not broken.
Well,
Otherwise,
yeah,
why
lots of
would you
truth to
why would
that.
you want to help
Absolutely.
heal?
I'll just say I'm an underdog who found a way out. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
pay it forward. So
Yes. Yeah.
absolutely.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, we'll have you on, and you'll get to
Yeah.
have all my
Yeah.
questions. I love it.
Excellent. I would love that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Hillary. And I wish you a very pleasant week and continued growth in your mission.
Thank you so much. You as well.
Thank you. Hey, if you're getting value from this content and you haven't done so already, be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and podcast and share with your friends and family. If there's anything you'd like me to speak to directly, please let me know using the contact us form. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to the MHT newsletter so you don't miss out on any new content as it's released, as well as get access to the freebies I have waiting for you there. Well, there you have it, another tool to help you thrive. Until next time, make good things happen. Bye-bye now.